All right. So it's been a while. Back again for another live stream. I think it's been maybe like 2 weeks or pretty close to 2 weeks. And a number of stories have popped up. So I finally have something kind of worth talking about. And sometimes when it comes to big stories, I like to let the dust settle. I feel like I don't need to be the guy that has to have the instant hot take as things are happening, especially when it involves any sort of tragedy and people dying and things along those lines. You don't want to be the guy who's giving hot takes while bodies are still warm and then you say something really ridiculously stupid that's wrong and all this sort of things. So I like to kind of just sit back and think about things and maybe get control of my emotions if I'm angry. And then after I've kind of cooled down and thought about it and gotten a better lay of the landscape, then I'll talk about stuff. So that's how it is with the recent Nashville stuff. I'm being careful with the algorithm. I don't know. Not that it matters that much, but get the Trump indictment, probably talk about that today. But I really wanted to talk about the Kamen America campaign, Kamen America 7. That is coming to a close in, I believe, 5 days on Kickstarter and 8 days on Indiegogo. The last time I checked, it had something along the lines of combined Kickstarter and Indiegogo, 2,711 backers, customers, and total cumulative was something along the lines of $119,000, $120,000. So let's get off the Soul Finder preview for Soul Finder Volume 4 and go to Kickstarter here. So yeah, Tim and Mark closing out the campaign in the near future. Another success. Congratulations, Tim and Mark. I've said that before. Want to say it again. So if you are a procrastinator for whatever reason, you have 5 days to go on Kickstarter. I think Indiegogo's definitely limited, and I don't know if they're down to just digital tiers yet or whatnot. You could check if you have a preference, but congratulations again to Tim and Mark. And I guess we'll just go into the Tim and Markness and talk about a few different things that I'd like to say about them and their overall sort of approach to things. And then I'll get into Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I've said before, Zelda is one of the very few games. I don't play very many video games anymore, but I will make time for a Zelda game. And I really liked Breath of the Wild. I know people had their issues with Breath of the Wild. I thought it was awesome. I understood the complaints about not having the dungeons and the shrines kind of being repetitive. And there's a couple shrines that were really kind of irritating, especially when you had to like mess with the controller. But overall, I really like Breath of the Wild. And if you haven't seen the new Tears of the Kingdom trailer, check it out. Bring it up here really quick, talk about it. But well, what the heck? I'll just talk about it right now. Just go, and then we'll get into Kamen America stuff, and then Soul Finder stuff, and then we could always get into the Trump indictment and maybe a few comments on the Nashville stuff. We'll see. So if you could hear me, just let me know if there's any problems. I probably should have said that 4 minutes ago. If there's any sound issues, let me know. I've been messing with my computer over the past couple days, but hopefully everything's good to go. So long story short, with Tears of the Kingdom, they had this 10 minutes of gameplay, and they have this new capability called Fuse. So in the past, when your weapons would break, you were just kind of screwed. You had to either find a new weapon, or there was a situation where like you would only have limited quantities, and then you'd have to be like, oh, I have to throw this away. What do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? Yada, yada, yada. And it could be annoying at times. I kind of liked it on some level, but I felt like some of the weapons, you're like, really, is it going to really break that quickly? But on this particular game, you can now fuse random items. So, for instance, with your arrows, you could attach a monster eyeball to it. And then after you've attached the monster eyeball, hopefully Nintendo doesn't like ding me here. I don't know how they are with some of this stuff.
Fuse it to an arrow and look, it homed in on the target.
You can basically make like a heat-seeking missile out of stuff. There's another area where he attaches a mushroom to the shield, and
let's fight an enemy with this.
When the enemy hits it, it obviously explodes and gives you sort of like a stealth smoke screen. So I don't know. Overall, I'm pretty excited about it. I know people have said like it's not too much different than the first, but I think that's not true at all. I think the fuse capability completely changes how you approach the game, and it encourages and creates an incentive for creativity. It rewards creativity and gives the user more control. So on a fundamental level, it completely changes how you approach the game. And so then they have all the sky stuff going on. Bianca fights the zombies, says dudes. I think there's going to be underground stuff. I think they're going to have the dungeons. So in my mind, that's it's taking something that is familiar and making it new. And not just new, but like I said, it fundamentally changes your approach to the game. If you can go to something like this,
you can always attach things or detach them like this.
You could essentially engineer things with this surrounding environment. It completely changes everything.
It's made of wood, so the buoyancy will keep it afloat.
So if you were wowed by some of the stuff that people did in Breath of the Wild, then with this particular game, I think it's going to be even crazier with some of the stuff that people are going to come up with. And I don't know. I'm pretty happy. Some people were saying that they didn't like the $70 price tag. But I think about it like, okay, well, if you got 100 hours of gameplay out of Breath of the Wild, I don't even know how much that game cost. Who knows? Maybe it was like $50, $60. Who knows? That's totally worth it to me. And if you can do stuff like this in a world that is not only the original world slightly changed, but you also have the sort of sky castles and you have the underground world or whatever they're doing with that. It's just huge. You could probably have like literally hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of gameplay for $70. To me, that seems like it's worth it. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But there was some people, for the most part, the reaction to this was positive. I did see some people that were poo-pooing it. And I kind of feel like I said on Twitter, I grew up with Pitfall, and different Atari games, Q*bert, and stuff like that. Obviously, Pac-Man. And so when you see something like this, I'm just like, this is mind-blowing. It's just my little kid brain, Doug brain, can't even make sense of how crazy and cool this is. And so I'm not prone to immediately poo-pooing things, being, well, you know, you could have done this and you could have done that. I mean, it's clear that the people that were making this game put a lot of love into it and a lot of thought, and they thought about all of the critiques from Breath of the Wild and tried to find a way to address those critiques and make a better game. So kudos to Nintendo. I've had my issues with them in the past with a few things, but I mean, I don't know. I think this game is going to be huge, not just in terms of sales, but the actual quality of the, did I say book? This game is going to be huge. And the quality of it, not just the sales, is going to be, there's going to be a lot of imitators, essentially. So let's see. This is all fine, but who is the CEO of Iconic Comics? Hey, Jim. Nice to see you. Actually, speaking of iconic comics, like I said, Tim and Mark closing out the campaign in the very near future here, closing in on 100,000 in pre-orders for the Kickstarter. They got over 2,300 customers going on, 5 days to go. Indiegogo was something like $21,000, 385 backers. But yeah, so Tim and Mark, man, here's the thing. Oh, and also things are getting intense for later this year. A Father Patrick Redder sighting for Black Ops 6. I had somebody send me a DM today, and it was a nice DM, but I felt like it was a little bit of bait trying to get me to spill the beans on some stuff. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to confirm or deny what this person thinks. The only thing that I will say is that Tim and Mark do a really good job of putting their characters through the ringer. They put them through the gauntlet. So here's the thing. These guys have been averaging 3 books per year. I don't even know what their count is at right now. Then they got the web series. Where's the web series stuff? Then they got the manga coming out. So this year, if they get the manga out, that's going to be 4 books in 1 year. Then they got the plushie toys. Then they got the other merch. Then they had Amazon recently. Mark was sharing. It's a little bit back. The Japanese market, Amazon top 20. I mean, on and on and on. These guys are like a wrecking ball, like what's her face? I forgot her, whatever that singer's name. They're like, coming in on the wrecking ball, and they do it. It's just basically on reader word of mouth alone. So they don't have. Gotta be careful how I say it. For the most part, Iconic is fueled by word of mouth. Readers who enjoy the stories, who enjoy the series, that are just like, dude, check this out. And that is how word continues to spread. Rob is here. Thanks for tuning in. Captain Cummings is here, stacking books to the sky. Yeah, so to me, I'm just constantly amazed and inspired by their ability, as I've said on Twitter here, their ability to continue to ramp up production without sacrificing quality. It's kind of amazing. So let me see. So that's what that's my 2 cents on Mark and Tim. If you haven't checked out Arc of Theme number 3 yet, check that out. Eric Canetti. Let me tell you a little story about Eric Canetti. He's a nice guy in general, but yesterday I went to his page and I saw that he had the direct link in his profile, his Twitter profile, to the book, and it was like all like there, and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. I should actually do that as well. So then I started to try and figure out how to do it. I could not do it. I was on my desktop. And for an hour, I was like, why is this not working? I do not understand why I cannot get this to work. I was Googling stuff and I'm like, it's not working. And I'm like, I think I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just dumb. And I was like, I don't want to text Eric and be like, am I a moron? Am I just stupid? But then I was like, I got to swallow my pride. So I texted Eric and I was like, hey, am I dumb? I can't get this to work. And he's like, no, man, no, it took me a few. He sends me a screenshot of how he did it. And then I try to do it and duplicate it. I cannot do it. So I'm like, I literally cannot do it. It will not give me the option. So then he goes, well, did you try it on the mobile app? And I was like, no, I did not. So then I try it on the mobile app. And then, of course, it works immediately. So for whatever reason, Twitter, I can do the thing on my cell phone, but I cannot do it if I'm using Twitter just on my desktop. So Eric probably saved me like 2 hours of trying to figure this out on my desktop and just beating my head against the wall and being like, why is this not working? I don't understand why this is not working. So Eric, if you're out there, if you're listening, thank you. Very nice guy. Also, you know what? I'm going to say another thing because it's not that big of a deal. So earlier this week, there was this guy who I actually believe he has mental problems. This has happened multiple times now. People on Twitter will randomly say weird things about me or Tim to Eric Canetti, and he is always very professional. And then the person just like they're so shamed by their ridiculousness that they delete the tweets. So Eric has put up with stuff like this ever since he started to get to know Tim and I. These weirdos, these like people with, I really honestly think that they have psychological problems, will say the most insane things to him, and he is just very patient. And he says something professional or something nice, shows some sort of concern about their well-being, and then they will go away. And oftentimes they will literally delete the weird things that they say. So Eric, thank you for just being a nice guy and for putting up with all of this weirdness. All right. So with that said, I don't think I showed this on my last live stream. A little Jeff Spokes art. Jeff Spokes is really busy with DC work these days. DC gave him the kitchen sink to draw of their characters, which is really awesome. But he's also made time throughout all of this to randomly do pieces, Soul Finder pieces for me, and they're pretty cool. So this is a preview of Soul Finder Volume 4, the Vietnam story, Crane's origin, Blatty's essentially in many ways origin, and then another priest, Father Lamb here. So if you're on Instagram, head on over to Instagram, follow Jeff Spokes, check him out. His DC work is absolutely crazy. I can see why they are going to keep giving him work. Also, obviously Eric Canetti always sharing his stuff, but Matt Weldon has started to share more of his pencils, and he will soon start sharing inks for Soul Finder. So here and there, you're going to get little previews of Soul Finder Volume 4. All right, there's one. Got another one. Looks just completely outstanding. And these are only the pencils. I have seen the inks, and the inks are outstanding. And Matt was just like, hey, do you care if I share just like whatever? No, I don't care. Because for the most part, things are out of context. The few people that see it on Twitter, there's people on YouTube, there's Patreon. I share stuff with them in advance a lot of the times, but it doesn't make any sense out of context. So really, you're just judging Matt's art. It's giving you an idea of where things are going and all of that. Eric, thanks for tuning in. I don't know if you want to rewind. I was just talking about you, and I talked about how you helped me immensely yesterday getting Soul Finder into my profile picture here. So thank you for your kindness. I appreciate that. And like I said, check out Arcathena Volume 3 on Iconic Comics right now. You could order it today, and you will get it in a hurry. That's just a fact, because we've seen all the people sharing their books: Soul Finder, Kamen America, Black Ops, Punchline, Arcathena, etc., etc., etc. Dan, thanks for tuning in. Always happy to see you. Glad that things are obviously going well with you. I see your Instagram here and there on occasion. So Dan, met Dan years ago, and cool dude. So appreciate that. All right, so I think that's the main stuff. Soul Finder I wanted to talk about. There's probably something that'll pop in my mind here and there. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. So when years ago, when I was formulating the Soul Finder idea, I could have never expected that if you fast forwarded in time, you would see Soul Finder inspired rosaries in the Vatican, at the Pieta, Michelangelo type stuff going on. Soul Finder rosaries. So again, as I was talking about, Iconic Comics is fueled by readers that are spreading the word about the solid storytelling and the solid art and the customer service and getting their books in a timely manner and all of that sort of thing. And to me, this sort of thing makes it all worthwhile. I don't want to get too religious on here, but one soul that is saved by somebody who says rosaries on a Soul Finder rosary, maybe their soul is saved 20 or 30 years from now. I don't know. They're on their deathbed and they look over and they see the rosary on their bedstand and they grab it and they say a prayer. And before they say their last breath, they've turned to God with a contrite heart and ask for forgiveness for sins and Jesus, help me in my last hour or something along those lines. If that soul is saved, I literally do not care about how much I make or do not make on the books, because if people realize the worth of a single soul, they would know that it is worth far more than anything I could ever make on YouTube with my books. Now, with that said, like I said, the books are doing well. We're on number 4, and actually volume 5 is on the way. I don't know how much Matt has read, but I've got 20 pages of volume 5 done. The whole story is like there. I just have to write it. I've been doing taxes this week, and I have to have everything itemized. So without going, I'm going down 10,000, 4,100, 350, 2,600, 100, 175, 200, 200, 400, 450, 2,300, 17,628. I could keep going down the list of all the costs of these books. And long story short, thank you again to everyone who's spreading the word, whether it's Kamen America, Black Ops, Arc Athena, Soul Finder. It all feeds into a rising tide lifts all boats, that sort of thing, because I literally couldn't do it if there wasn't grassroots support for these books, because I just read off a portion of all the bills that are for artists and printers and colorists and letterers and formatting and all sorts of stuff. It goes hardcover books and soft cover books. You can just keep going down the list. If you want to do books correctly, it is not cheap. That is for sure. And so the bet, Iconic Comics believes that if you have the goods storytelling wise, if you have the goods artwork wise, if you have the goods in terms of fulfillment and distribution, if you have those things, maybe it is a slower roll, but talk is cheap. So if you actually have the goods, if you could throw it on the table, you're the poker player and you just slide your winning hand, boom, you got the hand. Over time, everything's gonna pan out well. And that is literally what's happening. So literally, you got people going to Italy. They're going to the Vatican. They got their Soul Finder rosaries. I had multiple readers this month who were in Italy. I guess it makes sense. I mean, you're Catholic. You like Soul Finder. You go to the Vatican. You're like, hey, Doug, I'm in the Vatican. So Tagia, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. So again, long story short, I shouldn't say I could have never anticipated it, but it's just really cool to see. And actually going back on stuff, going back to Timothy Lim, it's one of the reasons why I will forever be indebted to Timothy Lim. I can't thank the guy enough. Timothy Lim is one of the nicest people that I have ever met. He's one of the most professional guys I've ever met. And without getting into too many details, people have no idea uh, some of the stuff that he's got to put up with in terms of people that do not like him. The guy has the patience of a saint. And if I could emulate Tim in any, Tim has, how do I say this, tempered my anger over the years with all the stuff that he's had to put up that just like really just irritates me. People have no clue. But he's just a nice man, and I can't thank him enough for believing in Soul Finder when other people, quite frankly, looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I think I've said that before, but I'm going to keep saying it. So similarly, Eric Canetti, his kindness over the past year and his ability to talk me off a metaphorical cliff when I'm upset with certain things. Dude's just a stand-up dude. Mark Pellegrini, Matt Weldon, Bill Williams, all these guys. Good dudes. So let's see. Dan Feistar says, bro hugs. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, hopefully one day we will meet again. And actually, for those that are considering going to Bell County Comic-Con down in Texas, I can't say too much, but this year is going to be a good one. I mean, it's always good, but if things pan out the way that I think they're going to pan out this year, this is going to be a year you're going to want to get to Bell County Comic-Con. I can't get into details because, but it's going to be good. So think about it. Seriously, think about going to Bell County Comic-Con if you can. Conor McGregor, take me on, beat me if you can. UFC reference, Michael Chandler there. Okay, so let's see. We will now talk about, I'll start getting into some of the political stuff. So today I see this. I actually saw it last night before I went to bed, but it kind of irritated me so much that I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk about this. So as people know, Donald Trump was indicted. You could look into the story, but long story short, it's a quote unquote trumped up charge related to his Stormy Daniels, that porn star sort of dealio from 2016, 2015, where she was making a claim that she had an affair and this and that. And then all of a sudden, then she's not talking. And then the claim was that she was given hush money. Oh, shocker. Shocker. A woman who is making claims against a man was given hush money, particularly by a politician or something along those lines. So they have decided, even though a statute of limitations expired, it was like a 2-year sort of thing. It would normally be just a misdemeanor if he did something weird with his campaign finance and stuff. They would be like, all right, dude, we're going to fine you $5,000 for this, because that's what we do to people with you. We don't care about what's going on in their personal life with their wives. And maybe it sucks that you cheated. I was going to say maybe. If somebody cheated on their wife, it sucks, because that's how families are destroyed and those sorts of things. But from a campaign finance perspective or a legal perspective, we're not going to throw the book at you because you may or may not have had some dalliance with an adult, quote unquote, adult film star. So we're going to fine you $5,000. So normally that's what would happen. But no, these guys, they're just like, yeah, man, we want them to do the perp walk. We're going to take something that even the federal government didn't even want anything to do with it. They're like, no, this is stupid. We're going to do it. And we're going to tie a misdemeanor to this larger thing that the government didn't want to do. And we're going to bring this guy down. We want to have him getting pictures with the fingerprints, and we want him handcuffs and all this sort of stuff. Okay, so it's completely political. This should terrify anybody who cares about the rule of law. All these people that are like, yeah, we got him now. Donald Trump, D-Rump. No, you should actually be terrified that this is where we're at, because once they set the precedent on these sorts of things, then bad things are going to go down. And then you have someone like Nancy Pelosi here, who literally, she's inverting the rule of law. And she says everyone has a right to a trial to prove innocence. No, you have it completely, pardon my language, ass backwards. And it's not an accident. This is what these people, you don't just tweet these things. This is what they believe. They're like, oh no, oops. The mask has come down. You are what the founding fathers warned people about. You are the threat. You are the danger. You are hemlock. You are poison. You are, I can't even, like, so anyone who's cheering this sort of thing, no, this is what you see in like the old school, the Soviet Union. This is what you see in places like China. This is what you see in Venezuela. This is what you see in Cuba. This is absolutely terrifying. And I got to be careful what I say, but anybody who cares about America's founding should read this, and you should have righteous indignation. You should be livid. And so what these people do is they say stuff like this. You are clearly a threat to freedom and liberty and the rule of law. I'm not even saying that in like a cliched way. Like, seriously, this is terrifying. But they've dumbed down the education system so much that people don't even know. They don't even know about the Declaration of Independence. They don't even know the truth about the Constitution. They don't even know world history. There is a reason why these people only care about like the most mundane, inane, vapid, ridiculous things, and like activism junk that means, for the most part, nothing. It's just ridiculous. Because they don't want people to actually know the true history of the United States and the importance of the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence and codified into the rule of law via the Constitution. They don't want people to know that, because if you know that, and they don't want people to be religious, because if you believe in God, if you are the type of person who prays the rosary, guess what? You're not going to be praying to Nancy Pelosi. If you were the kind of person who prays the rosary, you're not going to be praying to Uncle Sam. You're not going to be praying to the federal government. You're not going to be praying to any politician, whether it's on the left or the right or the center or whoever it is, because you believe that you were endowed by your creator with certain unalienable rights that cannot be taken away. Your rights are not given to you by the government and given or taken away according to the caprices of random politicians. No, your rights come from God. And therefore, when people start saying weirdo stuff about you have a right to prove your innocence, how do I prove a negative? If I didn't do something and you just make an accusation against me, how do I prove that I didn't do the thing that you said you did? Now, I mean, and you can see this over and over and over again. I was telling my wife, there are these lying, dishonest losers that do this thing where they will literally stream, and they will lie about Tim and I and Mark Pellegrini and Iconic Comics, and then what they do is they immediately private or delete the stream afterwards. So they get all the benefit of just lying about people, but then they don't get the scrutiny that goes with the lies, or they don't get people that are able to like save it. So then, after months of people lying about you, when you finally snap because you're a human being and you're just like, hey, guess what? These people are jerks. Well, then they know, oh, Doug Ernst has thin skin. Doug Ernst can't take it. So what these people do is they lie about you and they try and get you to prove, they want you to approve a negative. You can't do it. So on a small level, you can see this throughout the culture. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on Twitter. And you can see it at the federal level with people like Nancy Pelosi. Everything is inverted. Again, I tweeted, if you ever felt like things are inverted right now, if you felt like our culture is topsy-turvy and upside down, it's because it is. Anyone who cheers the idea that the onus is on the accused to prove his innocence is someone who is dangerous. These people are dangerous. And here's the other sad thing. This is not new. Now, if you remember, I think it was 2012, Benghazi, the terror attack in Benghazi, there was a guy, his name was like Nakula, something along those lines. I don't know his full name. I'll screw it up. Anyway, Hillary Clinton at the time blamed the Benghazi terror attack on this guy who was a director who made like a YouTube movie that was called Innocence of Muslims that 15 people watched on YouTube. She blamed this guy for the terror attack. And then they arrested the guy. They literally arrested the guy out in California, in Los Angeles or something along those lines. And they made him do a perp walk. He didn't do anything. There's no way on earth this guy was to blame for a terror attack in Benghazi. Just totally made up. And they made him do the perp walk. At least they gave him a hat. Oh, they allowed him to put some sunglasses on. And they whatever the heck. I don't even know if there's a t-shirt or something along those lines. And that should have been a red flag to people. Like, hey, what is going on? We're going down a really weird road right now. You're going to arrest like these random dudes for something. You're going to tie them to something in the Middle East and say that's what happened. Totally false. But yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares about the State Department in 2012 just accusing some guy of some weird crap and then arresting him, making him do a perp walk. Well, you don't care in 2012. You fast forward in time. Now we're over a decade later. It's 2023, and literally they're going after a former president of the United States on bogus, ridiculous, dumb, trumped up, pun intended, charges that are just stupid. So we're in a really, really bad place. I honestly believe that short of a miracle, really, really bad things are going to go down in the years ahead because we have tied ourselves in so many intellectual and spiritual knots that I don't even know how you get out of it, short of divine intervention. I really don't, because once you get to this point, and it's not like it's a few people, it's key individuals within the federal government, the state government, local governments, the media, education, law enforcement, literally law enforcement. I don't know how you get out of this absent God. I don't know. I feel really bad. Now I'm getting old, and to me, when I would like to live as long as possible with my wife doing the will of God. But if I were to die tomorrow, I'd be like, whatever, dude. Like, on some weird level, if God was like, hey, I need you, your time is up, I would be like, thank God. This place is insane. I cannot wait. Please, God, please. But at the same level, I also pray to be able to live as long as possible, to do the will of God in this fallen world, as long as I can. Where was I going to go with that? Okay, so transition, no pun intended, but I guess it just worked out that way, to the Nashville shooting sort of thing. And this is related to it. So speaking of topsy-turvy world, all of this sort of, actually, we'll stay on the Trump thing. So all you have to do is look at the rhetoric of people like the president of the United States. And right here, he's talking. So there's this new talking point, extreme MAGA. What they wanted. So they've already demonized MAGA in general. So what they had to do is like, well, how do we go back to the well again and have it make it the same impact with really dumb people? Well, instead of MAGA, we're just going to call it extreme MAGA. And then maybe we'll call it mega MAGA. And we're going to call it plasma MAGA or something along those lines, because it's even in extreme MAGA infinity. So what they have to do is you have to demonize anybody who thinks that this is disgusting, that these people are twisting and basically destroying the rule of law. They have to demonize those people. So if you actually have 2020 spiritual and intellectual vision as it pertains to the United States and its history, then you got to be demonized. And if you get angry at this, we gotta make sure that you are considered a very dangerous person. Well, maybe some people should be viewed as dangerous in a good way. If you're dangerous because you actually believe in liberty and like literally freedom and the rule of law, maybe you should be dangerous. I'm sure my cell phone is listening to me right now, so I got to be careful how I say this. My wife and I were joking the other day about some military stuff. And I was telling her about some things that guys brought with them on deployment. There's always a couple guys that will bring something, we'll just say X-rated on deployment. And then on Instagram, the next day, my mom got an Instagram video about the very thing that I was talking about that soldiers would sometimes have with them on deployment. So some like pervy stuff. And she's like, hey, I got an Instagram video for this thing. Like, what the heck? And I was like, our phones are clearly listening to us. So when I talk about how Nancy Pelosi and all these people are, just know your phones are definitely listening to you. They denied it, but they are listening. Hey, Tomes, thanks for tuning in. Matt is here. Matt Reese is here. Appreciate it as always. Anybody else that I missed, appreciate you tuning in. So yeah, all right. Let's see. Ping-ponging back and forth to the Nashville shooting thing. So, boop. These people. Oh no, the Trump thing. What they want to do is they want to elicit a response. So if they arrest a former president of the United States and his supporters who they've demonized, then what they want is they want 0.1% of those people that support the president to do something that they shouldn't be doing. Something. And I would like, so I was telling my wife, imagine if at the courthouse from like a half a mile away, there was a gunshot that rang out and it hit the courthouse. We don't know who it was, but we know that it was extreme MAGA. It had to be. So they want somebody out there to do something ridiculous or illegal or just totally over the top and crazy. And then they will say, see, these people are dangerous. We can't. If you don't care that the Epstein clients, no, we don't know who any of the Epstein clients were. If you don't care that the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, where he's literally on a laptop with Russian prostitutes and what appears to be very young ladies, if you don't care about the Hillary Clinton hammers on cell phones and destroying evidence and servers that were in her home as she was essentially doing weirdo cronyism stuff, using the State Department to hook up her friends with stuff on essentially greater than essentially top secret sort of stuff. If you don't care about that, but you think it's absolutely hilarious that a former president was arrested for ridiculous trumped up charges, then you are dangerously stupid. You are what they call a useful idiot. I'm not even trying to be mean, but like you you as well in many ways are dangerous. But again, you're just dangerously stupid. All right. So I think I've said enough on the Trump stuff. Do I want to talk about the Nashville shooting thing? The Nashville shooting thing, the one thing I will say is going back to topsy-turvy world. So you have these people that go to a Christian school and they literally execute little girls and things like that. And the response by the media has been, "Oh man, this chick, I mean, she had a girlfriend and the girlfriend died. And you just got to understand that, like Christians are really mean." Or so, the Christians are they're exacerbating this problem because they just believe in men and women and they don't believe in gray areas in between and things along those lines or whatever. They're playing apologist for somebody who slaughtered Christians in a Christian school. They're coming up with twisting into all sorts of intellectual. And this is not the president of the United States is doing all this sort of stuff too. And you're like, how is this the number one issue in the world to the most powerful people in the United States? I don't understand how this issue of all the issues has risen to prominence where everyone needs to be focused on men who don't believe they're men and women who don't believe they're women and these sorts of things. It makes no sense to have this be the number one domineering issue that is just consuming everyone's thoughts and deeds in 2023. I feel like some sort of poison gas Joker style was released upon the world while I was sleeping, and I woke up and now people are concerned about the most bizarre stuff. And meanwhile, you have Russia and China, Russian and Chinese leaders that are striking military deals and deals about currency and things that will affect the US dollar. That's the other thing. I feel like the Trump stuff is another giant distraction because there's so many serious things going on in the world that will affect not just this generation, but generations to come of Americans in a negative way, in a deleterious way. And they're just like, you know what? There's a lot of really bad stuff that's just over the horizon. So let's just give them the shiny object to, take up all of their time. Hey, you worried about the dollar crashing? Are you worried about inflation? Are you worried about the complete lack of rule of law in basically the United States in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago and Baltimore and Philadelphia and all the Detroit, all these cities are turning into Gotham City on its worst night. Hey, well, guess what? We arrested Trump. What do you think about that? And then all of these just people that are just dumb. They're literally dumb. And some of them, they're not necessarily dumb, but they just don't have critical thinking skills because over the course of generations, the education system has been dismantled. So people don't have critical thinking skills. They're just like, oh, yay, Donald Trump arrested. Donald Trump, Stormy Daniels vindicated. Yay. So the top thing in their mind is some adult film star who made claims but then recanted her claims, and then Trump's lawyer who was found guilty of perjury or whatnot and made claims and he's changed claims, and even the federal government wanted nothing to do with this. But the New York Attorney General, he wants to go after something that even people who hate Donald Trump at the federal level were like, we can't get away with this one. But no, New York City, they're like, we're going to go there. So what they have essentially done, they're trying to completely polarize people, and they're hoping that if they just completely polarize people, they will have enough people on their side, on their quote-unquote pole, to do what they want. But I saw somebody yesterday that was just like, I don't know if it was Glenn Beck or someone. He was just like, you're not going to be able to stop this wave. There's going to be 100 million people that are going to vote for Trump. Dude, they put they have enough things in place. You saw what they did in the 2020 election in terms of mail-in ballots and changing rules. You saw what they did down in Arizona in the last election. people that are willing to completely invert the rule of law and innocent until proven guilty are people that do not care about cheating on any level. They will do and they will say anything. Like, this proves they will do and say anything to hold on to power. Their entire life is about power. So make of that what you will. All right. Actually, JJ Wormwood shared this. I watched about half of it before I started this stream, but I was like, man, I can't be watching all of this. I gotta get this stream, but it was pretty good. So check out that. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. Let's see. I think that's all the heavy stuff I wanted to talk about. Go back to my wife really quick. So yesterday, I wake up, I got to do the taxes. I'm not in a good mood because I got to do the taxes. Then I find out that these dishonest scumbags, who I never even talk about, were once again talking about me. But then, of course, they delete the stream or private the stream because that's what they do. Because dishonest scumbag's going to dishonest scumbag. And I'm like, dude, I really would love to just like say something, but I know it's not worth it. Just got to focus, do something productive. But then my wife's just like, hey, guess what, Doug? Smashing Pumpkins. So my wife is the best. I've seen Pearl Jam. I've seen REM. I saw STP. I've seen Weezer. The only one that was left on my list from my teenage years that I really, really wanted to see but didn't get a chance to see was the Smashing Pumpkins. I wanted to see Billy and James Iha. I don't really care about DRC. It would have been nice to see the original lineup or whatever, but you know, Billy is the driving force behind Smashing Pumpkins. James Iha, for those of you that don't know, I kind of poo-pooed his solo stuff years ago, but now I've actually been listening to a lot of James Iha lately, and I don't know, maybe with age, I'm like, actually, he's pretty good. I like James. So anyway, seeing Smashing Pumpkins this year. If all goes well, looking forward to that. Solid Halon, thanks for tuning in. I owe you a Doug prize. Speaking of which, was it Solid Halon? Did I get you the Fulton Sheen? Where is it? Life of Christ. If you haven't checked out Fulton Sheen's Life of Christ, this is an amazing book. One of my favorites. Had a very large impact on my life. Going back to the scumbags, I've mentioned this before. Last year, people were saying that, like, I gave out Doug prizes to essentially, quote unquote, bribe people. No, I don't. I just give out Doug prizes because I want people to read good spiritual books. I give out, Big Bad Toy Store, Snake Eyes, specialty toys because I'm trying to bring a little light into somebody's life. When you're surrounded by all this weird stuff, maybe it would be nice to just get Snake Eyes once in a while. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to give people good books with beautiful art by guys like Jeff Spokes. That's what I'm trying to do. So Tagia says, I got to get to work. Take care. Appreciate it. Tomes says, howdy. Appreciate it. So yeah. So hopefully if you're tuning in here, you're the type of person that just wants solid storytelling and solid art. And you want to read a series by a reliable creators, Tim and Mark, who continue to just put out good books and good series, and guys like Eric Canetti, who is just a stand-up dude, putting out really good books. So that's my hope, is that if you're tuning in, you share the vision of Iconic Comics in terms of what indie comics could and should be. It's a long road. We got a lot of work to do, but we're making progress. I was saying the other night that my wife she was asking me when the Soul Finder anime is going to happen. And I was basically joking, like, yeah, let me get right on that. Let me just pull out some animation studio context magically out of my butt. I wasn't being mean to my wife at all. Like, we're just joking around, but she is right in that this is the logical progression as far as I'm concerned. Animated shorts, animated movies on a long enough timeline. I would like to make that happen. There was a guy last year from Europe who contacted me, and he wanted to make an animated Soul Finder movie, and he was a legit dude. He did. I looked into him. He did have a legitimate, valid resume directing things, but it was more like documentaries. But the thing is that the animation that he was into was just one. It was not where I would want it to be, and it wasn't even anime. It doesn't have to be anime, but so the animation wasn't there. And then he essentially was indicating that he wanted control of Soul Finder. Like, this is one of those things where it's like, hey, I want to make a movie of this, but you just got to sign off the soul of Soul Finder to me, and then I'll do this thing. And I was like, that's not happening. That's not happening. And then he disappeared. So, but the point is on a long enough timeline, Tim's already done stuff with teaser trailers that are animated, been very cool. That's sort of like a taste of what I would like to do on a long enough timeline. But I got to finish my taxes. So I'm going to try and finish my taxes today and then see where I'm at financially. We're obviously good for Soul Finder Volume 4, obviously good for Soul Finder Volume 5. But in terms of upping the ante and getting into animated stuff, I don't know if I could take that on. I don't want to take that big of a risk yet with capital. So it would be preferable if there was a studio that they wanted to offer the capital first, as opposed to myself. But I'm not opposed to taking matters into my own hands by any means. But yeah, anyway, unless there's any other final thoughts, I want to thank everybody tuning in. Matt, Holmes, Captain Cummings, Solid Halon, Tagia, Dan Fightstar, Rob, Jim, Bianca, Eric Canetti, obviously. Like I said, check out the Kamen America Volume 7 campaign. Oh, there was a comment. Somebody asked, Tagia, but I don't know if he left already or not. Tagia says, I got to work. When is the omnibus? The Soul Finder omnibus, I was going to do it last year, but then I thought about it, and I was like, no, I don't want it until I have Father Crane's origin, a Father Crane story, and then Father Redder's origin, and then Father Redder like story, even though they're a team in the later, these later books or whatever. So I at least need to get the first 4 done before I do the omnibus. But then I was thinking about it, and the major character arcs, the major story and kind of like subplots that I want to tell, those won't be done until Volume 6. So then I was like, maybe I should just wait until the first major arc is done and I have 6 volumes and put those 6 into an omnibus. So that's what I am thinking now. I don't want to just rush to get an omnibus out to say that I got an omnibus out, especially when the first 6 tells the story. It's the story of Father Crane, and then obviously William Nebel. Volume 5 is William Nebel's origin in the Cold War. And also Volume 5 is the origin of Soul Finder 78 and what happens in 78. And then it continues on with Crane mentoring Redder, the continued search for Nebel, and then the final confrontation with Nebel. So that's where I need to get. So I think that I'm going to wait until the first 6 are done before I do an omnibus. We'll see. Hopefully that answers your question. Anyway, thanks again to everybody tuned in. As always, thanks again for spreading the word about Iconic Comics. Thanks again for sharing pictures of rosaries that you get, whether it's in the United States or Canada or in Italy and the Vatican. And thanks again for everything. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I would not be able to do this without the support, the grassroots support that you guys have shown. So anyway, thanks again for everything. I will see you soon. See you later. See ya.